The method of loci, memory palace. Video number 1 in the Memory Techniques series. Dr. Dilarom. In 2015, one man memorized the order of a shuffled deck of cards in just 90 seconds. Not because he was born with a photographic memory. Scientists tested him. His brain was completely ordinary. The secret was a technique that's over 2,000 years old. Ancient Greek orators used it to deliver hours-long speeches without a single note card. And today, you're going to learn how to use it in your own life. From grocery lists to exam prep, I'm Dr. Dilarom, and on this channel, we don't just talk about what the mind is capable of. We show you how to actually use it. Starting today, let's get into it. Why this actually works. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Your brain wasn't built to remember words and numbers. It was built over hundreds of thousands of years to remember space, where the water was, where the danger was, the way back home. That's exactly why you can probably picture every room in the house you grew up in without even trying, but you can barely hold on to a 10-item to-do list for today. The method of loci uses this exact feature of your brain. Locus is Latin for place, and the idea is simple. You take a space you already know inside and out, your apartment, for example, and you place whatever you need to remember inside it. Sounds strange? Give it 2 minutes, and you'll see just how simple it actually is. Where this technique came from. Before we get into the practice, it's worth pausing on the history for a moment, because the origin story alone shows you how powerful this technique can be. The ancient Greek poet Simonides of Chios was once speaking at a banquet. He stepped outside for a moment, and right then, the roof of the hall collapsed, burying every guest inside. The bodies were so badly damaged that families couldn't identify their own relatives. But Simonides remembered exactly who had been sitting where. And by mentally walking through the seating arrangement, he was able to name every single victim. That, as the story goes, is where the idea was born. If you can recall people based on where they were positioned in space, then you can deliberately place anything you want in space and recall it just as reliably. 2,000 years later, memory champions use that exact same principle. Except instead of a banquet hall, it's an imagined palace built entirely inside their own head. The brain hasn't changed. What's changed is who actually knows how to use it. How it works, step by step. Step 1. Choose your route. Picture your apartment or the path from your front door to your bedroom. It needs to be a place you know so well you could walk through it with your eyes closed. Break that route down into individual points. The front door, the entryway, the kitchen table, the couch in the living room, the fridge, the bed. 5 to 7 points is plenty to start with. Step 2. Place. The information at each point. This is where the magic happens. Let's say you need to remember a grocery list. Milk, eggs, bread, coffee, apples. Instead of just repeating the words over and over, you create a vivid, even slightly ridiculous image at each point along your route. At the front door, picture the door handle replaced by a giant jug of milk spilling all over the floor. In the entryway, there are broken eggs all over the floor, and you nearly slip every single time you walk in. On the kitchen table, instead of a normal tabletop, there's a giant steaming loaf of bread the size of the whole table. On the couch, instead of throw pillows, there are 3 steaming cups of coffee sitting there. In the fridge, when you open the door, an avalanche of apples comes tumbling out, rolling across the entire kitchen floor. Step 3. Walk the route in your mind. Now just close your eyes and mentally retrace the same path. Door, entryway, table, couch, fridge. And each point will automatically show you exactly what's hidden there. Why ridiculous images work better. Here's an important secret a lot of people miss. A normal, boring image doesn't stick. There's bread on the table. Your brain yawns and moves right past it. But the brighter, more absurd, funnier, or stranger the image, the deeper it embeds itself in your memory. Add movement, sound, emotion, exaggerated size, a giant loaf of bread, not a regular one, an avalanche of apples, not just apples in the fridge. Your brain loves anything unusual. It's exactly why you remember that ridiculous thing that happened 5 years ago far better than what you had for breakfast 3 days ago. Putting it into practice. A grocery list is just the warm up. Here's where the method of loci really changes the game. Preparing for a presentation or an exam. Break your speech or your exam material down into 5 or 6 key points. Place them along your route the same way we did with the groceries. And on stage or in the exam room, all you have to do is mentally walk through your apartment to recall the entire outline in order without a single note. Remembering names at a networking event. This one's trickier because you have to build the route on the spot, but the principle is identical. Connect the person's name to a vivid image and place it at a point you're already looking at right now, a specific corner of the room where you're standing, for example. Foreign language vocabulary. Every word becomes an image at a different point along your route. Your vocabulary grows not through rote memorization, but through the images your brain was already built to remember. And here's the best part. You can build as many routes as you want. Your apartment, your commute, your favorite park, even the layout of a store you visit often. Memory champions have dozens of these palaces, each one built for a different purpose. Common beginner mistakes. The most common mistake is trying to memorize 20 or 30 items on day one. Start with 5. One clean pass through a 5-point route already counts as a win. Your brain, like a muscle, needs to adapt to the load gradually. Overloading yourself on day one just kills your motivation to try again. Another common mistake is using routes that are too similar to each other. If your entryway and your office hallway feel nearly identical, the images will start to blur together. Choose spaces that feel distinct from one another. The 5-minute-a-day practice. Like any skill, this comes down to small, consistent steps. Day 1, one rote, 5 points, 5 simple words. Don't aim for perfection right away. There's no such thing as a perfect image, only your own images, and the more personal and strange they are, the better they'll stick. Day 2, the same route, but now with 7 points. Add 2 more images at the end of the path. Day 3, try a brand new route, the walk from your house to the nearest store, for example, and fill it with your to-do list for the day. After a week of practice, just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll notice what almost everyone who tries this technique notices. A list of 10 or 15 items stops feeling difficult. It starts feeling like a walk down a familiar path. But what if I'm not very imaginative? This is probably the most common doubt anyone teaching this technique hears. Good news. You don't need to be an artist or writer to create images for the method of loci. You don't need to render the picture in cinematic detail. A rough, blurry impression is enough. Your brain will fill in the rest automatically when you mentally walk the route. Second common doubt, what if I mix up images between different routes? In practice, this rarely happens if your routes genuinely feel different from each other. An apartment doesn't feel like a park, and a park doesn't feel like an office. Your brain is excellent at distinguishing context, as long as you give it the chance. And third, how long until I'm actually good at this? Memory champions train for years, but you don't need to become a champion. After just 1 week of consistent practice, the method of loci becomes a normal, everyday tool, as natural as a to-do list on your phone, minus the phone. Wrap up and call to action. Your mind already has everything it needs to remember, far more than you've been giving it credit for. You just need to know how to work with it. Here's your assignment for today. Pick your first route, 5 points in your apartment, and today, just once, place any 5 words along it, a grocery list, your to-do list, anything. Drop a comment and tell me which route you picked and how it went. I genuinely want to read them. In the next video, we'll cover a second technique, one that lets you hold far more information in your head at once without building a single palace. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.